The Senate will be back to order. On the 11th order of business, final passage of Senate measures, Senator Magrum.
Madam President, I was just concerned about this Bioscience bill 2328. So I'm glad we passed the amendment, and I hope we kill this bill, because when we were in committee, the presentation that we had was we had very little information. But what we did have is this book they gave us. And then we started asking them questions about where the money's going, who's getting it. The one thing we did see is in evidence is we're seeing companies like out of Delray Beach, Florida, getting $240,000. Company out of Minnetonka, Minnesota, getting $250,000. This one just says Charlene Johnson, Jupiter. Probably shouldn't say the name, but anyway, Jupiter, wherever that is, 480,000. Here's another one, White Bear Lake, Minnesota, 700,000. Burnsville, Minnesota, 1,158,000. Minville, Oregon, 90,000. Norwich, Connecticut, 600,000. Hobbs, New Mexico, 60,000. That's the information I got as appropriator, and I didn't get any more information, even though we asked for more information, unless it was delivered and I didn't see it. But we didn't have any information what's the return on investment, what did the money go for? It went to these companies, yes, but it was very confusing. So we did have one hearing in our subdivision, and then the bill did get moved out of our subdivision to a different one, but we never did get any more information. So I was hoping that we can, our focus, I hope we don't lose. Our primary purpose this session was to reduce property tax. And so we keep bringing in all these other bills that are, they're not helping our property owners. And you're going to hear all kinds of reasons why this is such a good thing to take our money and give it to these other companies, because they're going to create all this wealth. Well, if we keep the money in our property owners' pockets, we'll have a lot more economic development than programs like this, where we're sending money out of state. Then they say, well, they're going to move here someday. Well, we don't know that. They got our money. So anyway, I would ask for a red vote on this bill, and let's just start peeling off some of these bills that waste a lot of taxpayer dollars.
Senator Myrdal.
Madam President, I appreciate the comments of the previous speaker, as well as the amendment that was attached to this bill earlier, attempting to have some accountability. However, I want to build upon the property tax issue as well. We all know property tax reform is directly relating to spending. It's just that clear. We have to pay for property tax relief. And I know our appropriators are quite aware of that in our tax committee, and they're working hard on that. Also, Madam President, we heard our Congresswoman speak today about when there's time for government to step aside and not be involved in private business. And that's exactly what I think this bill is doing. It's something that we passed several times before. I think it's time this time to do some serious search in our convictions here and see what are the things that taxpayers deem core function of government. And for me personally, I don't think this is core function of government. I think it's sort of a little bit relating to what we're seeing nationally. What are we spending money on? And these are going to large corporations, private businesses. Sounds like a great Christmas basket idea for some people. but it doesn't serve the people in North Dakota in large, in my opinion. I also think we have great universities that are doing bio research and tremendous research. If our state does what it's supposed to do through our higher ed and through our energy and our ag and our way of living, I think these companies would see it, as they have in Grand Forks and other places, an attractive state to move to have big business and to be innovative in. I don't think we need to use taxpayers' monies to the tune of $9 million to line the pockets of these industries in order for them to come here. So I would strongly urge that we do a red vote on this entire bill.
Senator Wanzik.
Madam President, Senate Bill 2328, its simple goal is to expand and diversify our North Dakota economy with bioscience. It's all about growing our economy. But it's a bioscience or life science development is a good fit in North Dakota. All of our major industries are about science. Agriculture, energy, medical, all kinds of interests that relate to science. Bioscience jobs tend to pay higher salaries for these kind of jobs. And as far as the companies that received a grant, they have to have a presence in North Dakota. And according to the Greater Fargo-Moorhead Economic Development Corporation, the gross regional production contributed by the bioscience and industry in Fargo-Moorhead area has grown from less than $50 million in 2011 to $208 million in 2021. The growth of the bioscience occupations in the FM metro area have grown 40.9% in that same period, eclipsing the national growth rate of 23.4%. The statewide gross development product from the bioscience sector has grown from 52.6 million to more than 418.6 million in 2023, nearly tenfold in the last 13 years. The bioscience industry employs approximately 1,467 people in North Dakota with an average earning of $111,516 per job or per employee. Statewide job growth in the sector of 58% over the last 5 years has pushed jobs from 927 to 1,476 in 2023, which far outpaces the national bioscience job growth, 22%. All this bill is simply trying to do is grow our bioscience industry in North Dakota. I can give an example of one recipient of one of our bioscience grants, moved the company from California to Fargo, North Dakota, along with the 25 employees. This company produces a mechanical ventilator for COVID diseases and things of that such. They also moved their own families here. The principal owners moved to Fargo, and when they shared their information with me, they said they really like our climate here. But then they corrected themselves and said they like our business climate. They said January and February were not real nice, but they do like our business climate here in North Dakota. That's what this is about. It's seed money, hopefully, that will entice and incentivize the bioscience industry to grow here in North Dakota, provide other opportunities for our people who live here. When I first came to the legislative session many years ago, the number one issue was how do we keep our best and brightest students here in North Dakota? How do we create opportunities, find ways for them to be able to stay here and raise their families here and stay close to their families? And to some degree, I'd say we succeeded because we made investments like this. There's proof that this effort has provided a growth in our bioscience industry in North Dakota. I hope you consider voting for this bill.
Senator Davison.
Madam President, again, I guess it's a good thing to hear the discussion we have down in appropriations. Being a legislator from Fargo, I'm familiar with the company. Spent a number of years in economic development in my private life. What you need to know about the company from Fargo is we're happy they moved. But what you have to also keep in mind is we're trying to say because of these $9 million, that's why they moved here. But if you really dig into it deeper, and I have, you're going to see that they got a $3 million low interest loan to move here, to move their company here. You're going to want to see they got 2 APAC grants, millions of dollars they got. They got tax increment financing in order to where they're located. These dollars, they use these dollars to move the company, basically. And so everybody wants to take credit for the company coming to Fargo, and that's what they're trying to, that's their poster child for this $9 million. And honestly, it's just not the case. It did not impact whether they moved here or not. It just allowed them to spend less money in the end to move here. I will be voting red on the bill.
Senator Clemens.
Madam President, when I look at these bills that come through and these grants, I think the state is becoming too, insensitive to the money we're spending. We're beginning to spend too much taxpayer money to promote private industry. And I think things in this bill should be better left to free enterprise. With that, I'd have a question for the carrier.
Senator Axman, proceed.
My question is on the biotechnology. Is there a reason that the extension services and the university research divisions would not be able to handle the biotechnology with the money that we're already providing them?
Madam President, I apologize. That specific topic was not covered in discussion within the policy committee.
Senator Clary.
Madam President, members of the Senate, I don't think anybody is discounting that the folks who received this funding are doing cool things. They're businesses in North Dakota, presumably. But when we look at bills like this, I think we have to think about what are the state's wants versus what are the state's needs. And the needs alone in balancing the budget are hard enough. We're going to get a lot of requests on human services, on infrastructure, on education, and even finding money within the needs of the state government is very difficult, and it's something we're going to argue about a lot this session. And so, again, these companies are doing great work. It's exciting things to learn about, but when I think of grants to private businesses, even with the oversight amendment, which I'm glad we adopted, I think we need to vote red on this and think a little bit more broadly about how we're incentivizing businesses in this state. I thought the senator from Edinburgh brought up a good point in that we have a lot of other parts of our infrastructure that aid development like this, like our research universities and other programs that were also mentioned by the senator from Fargo. So I'm going to be a red vote on this bill.
Senator Wanzik.
Madam President, the example I used, it is true that they received interest buy down, but the key word is loan. It was a loan, which has to be paid back. It's all about expanding our economy, growing our economy in other areas, and not be so dependent on only 2 industries. And in my view, the bioscience industry is a good fit. Bioscience has dramatically transformed our farm and our agriculture in North Dakota. There's all kinds of opportunities there too. And I'm talking about a little bit of seed money to entice and incentivize and then hopefully result in a huge return on investment. The company that I talked about that located in Fargo is sales are in the millions, $26 million range right now. They're looking at hiring eventually 100, up to 100 people in the next 5 years, and it's going to grow without any kind of incentive. But it took that initial seed money to get them to come here and to locate here and invest here. You know, and I go back again, when I first came to the legislature, we didn't have all these added value agriculture projects. We didn't have opportunities like this. Our kids were leaving the state back in the 90s, 80s and 90s. And it was because we made some of these kind of investments that we created an environment where there's opportunity. Every single one of my children have a job here in North Dakota, thankfully, and a good paying job. And they're raising families. They're raising my grandkids here in North Dakota. And that's what this is all about. I'm just trying to entice and enhance and grow our North Dakota economy.
Senator Angut.
Madam President, I applaud the previous senator's desire to bring business here in North Dakota. But in my view, I would very much like to see an acute focus on a particular technology that fits the needs that we have here in North Dakota, that aligns with a university drive as well. In other words, instead of throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping it sticks somewhere, have that focus and understanding and a plan in place that allows us to drive the process rather than allow it to drive our possibilities.
Senator Weber.
Madam President, I rarely stand and speak a little different tune from my good friend over there on the left, but everybody knows that I'm an Aggie, true and true. Everybody knows that about me. But having said that, the comment about to provide seed money, the problem is that I see it, we have provided seed money year after year after year after year for whomever, and it seems that once we start down that road, we never can seem to say no. And I think that is a weakness that we have. We've been too easy to start that, to say we're going to give some seed money, and sure enough, 2 years later, so-and-so is back, and we seem to have a hard time saying no. And I think we all know various cases like that. So for that reason, I do intend to vote red.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, the question is on the final passage of Senate Bill 2328. The secretary will open the key and each senator will record his or her vote. Have all senators voted? Does any senator wish to change their vote? The secretary will close the key and take the tally. Final tally on Senate Bill 2328 reveals 21 ayes, 24 nays, 2 absent, not voting. The bill has failed. The next bill under consideration for final passage is Senate Bill 2296.